In June of 2019, a message started moving between towns in the mountains of southern Brazil. It said the werewolf had been caught. It was not a newspaper headline. It was voice notes. Real people, real voices, forwarded from phone to phone across the hills. The story was specific, and that is what made it believable. A man-beast had been walking the streets at night, approaching people, frightening them. And then the ending everyone wanted. He had been captured in Bom Repouso, a town of about 10,000 people. Some versions said the army had helped. People locked their doors early. Parents pulled children off the street before dark. In some houses, nobody slept. Eventually, a reporter did the boring thing that rumors never survive. He picked up the phone and called the police station. The answer from the military police in Bom Repouso was one sentence long. Quote, "It is a rumor. We have had no arrest of that kind." The sergeant added something stranger. It was the first time he was hearing these comments in his own town. So here is the fact this episode starts from. In 2019, a police force had to publicly deny that it had arrested a werewolf. Nobody was arrested. No creature was found. But the fear was real, it was measurable, and it moved faster than any werewolf in history. This is Minas Gerais, not the beaches Brazil sells to the world. Old mountains, coffee farms, and towns separated by ridges and silence. Farms sit an hour apart. Between them there is forest, fog, and a dirt road with no lights on it at all. Places like this keep their stories the way a cellar keeps cold. The werewolf did not arrive here in 2019. It arrived on a Portuguese ship. The Brazilian rule is inherited from Portugal, and it is oddly bureaucratic for a curse. It selects by birth order. The seventh son, when all seven are boys and no girl breaks the sequence, is born marked. Nothing he does causes it. He simply is the seventh. The change is supposed to come at adolescence, on certain nights, and always at the same kind of place. A crossroads after midnight. And here the Brazilian version stops looking like the movies. Our creature is often not a wolf. There is no native wolf in these hills. Depending on the region, it becomes an enormous black dog, a headless mule, or a hog the size of a calf that walks upright. It does not hunt people for sport. In most accounts, it eats what a starving animal eats: chickens, garbage, whatever the farm left outside. And the cure in the oldest versions is not a silver bullet. You wound it and draw blood, and at dawn the neighbor walks home as a man again. Read that again because it is the important part. The monster is not a stranger from the forest. The monster is somebody from the village. Now it would be comfortable to file all this under harmless folklore. It was not harmless. It had a body count made of children. Across South America, seventh sons were given away, left with missions, or abandoned outright. Nobody wanted the boy the legend had chosen. In 1907, in Argentina, a couple of German immigrant farmers had their seventh boy. They wrote to the President of the Republic and asked him to be the godfather. The President said yes. It became a custom, and then in 1974, it became a national law that is still in force today. A head of state is legally the godfather of every seventh child, with a state scholarship attached. An entire country wrote public policy around the fear of the werewolf. Which brings us back to June of 2019, and to 5 towns in the south of Minas Gerais: Bom Repouso, Ouro Fino, Bueno Brandão, Monte Saio, Jacutinga, small places close together, all near the border with the state of São Paulo. These towns share everything: roads, markets, families, and a phone network that does not care where one county ends and the next begins. The reports moved along those roads in the same order a car would: town, next town, next town. And then it did something a car can do and a legend should not. It crossed the state line. It surfaced in Joanópolis, in São Paulo state, roughly 100 kilometers away, where the town's own communications office was fielding questions about it. One night, 100 kilometers, 5 towns, 2 states. No creature has ever traveled like that. A voice note does it before breakfast. And as it moved, the story changed shape, which is the fingerprint of a rumor rather than an event. In one version, it was a man in a costume playing a prank. In another, it was the real thing, and the costume story was the cover-up. In a third, soldiers had been called in, because the local police were not enough for what they were dealing with. Every version had the same structural detail, and it is the detail that gives these stories away every single time. The sighting is always here. The arrest is always in the next town over. Ask anyone in the next town over, and they will tell you sincerely that it happened where you just came from. That is not lying. That is how a rumor stays alive. It keeps its proof permanently one town away from whoever is asking. So the reporter kept calling. The hotel, the town council office, the police desk, everyone had heard it. Nobody had a record of it. A guest house worker put it plainly, "I think it is fake. Nobody was arrested at the station here." A council employee said the police normally tell him when anything happens. This time they had told him nothing, because there was nothing. The only origin anyone ever pointed to was a performer from the city of Varginha who supposedly dressed up to scare people. That was never confirmed either. At this point, the easy conclusion is that a few rural towns got carried away. That conclusion is wrong, and it is worth explaining why. Because this exact thing happens in capital cities, in different centuries, on different continents, with a different creature every time. The best documented case is not from a village at all. It is from a city of millions, and it was investigated by doctors. Delhi, India, May of 2001. A heat wave and a power grid that kept failing after dark. Residents began reporting something climbing between rooftops. Half man, half monkey, metal claws, glowing eyes. Between the 10th and the 25th of May, police logged roughly 400 calls from people saying they had been attacked. A medical board was set up to examine the injured. This is the part that matters because the wounds were real. People were genuinely hurt. The pattern of the injuries did not match an attacker. It matched accidents, falls, scrapes, collisions in the dark. And people died, not killed by any creature, killed by the panic itself, falling from unlit rooftops and down black stairwells while running from a shadow. Line up Delhi and southern Minas Gerais and the ingredients are identical. Stress, darkness, a fast way to pass a story, and a shape the culture already had ready. In Delhi, the culture handed people a monkey. In Minas Gerais, it handed them a werewolf. The mechanism underneath never changed. What did change, and this is the only genuinely modern part of the story, is the delivery. A printed rumor is text. You can doubt text. A voice note is a person you know, breathing, upset, telling you something happened. Your brain does not process that as information. It processes it as a witness. And a witness you recognize does not get fact-checked. It gets forwarded. 5 towns did not independently see a monster. 5 towns received the same voice, and each one added the detail that made it fit home. Now the honest part. Is there anything real underneath the werewolf, medically speaking? Yes, and it is far too rare to explain any of this. Clinical lycanthropy is a genuine psychiatric delusion in which a person believes they are turning into an animal. A systematic review published in 2014 went through more than a century and a half of medical literature. It found 56 reported cases of believed transformation into an animal. Of those, only 13 met the criteria for lycanthropy proper. Most patients had schizophrenia, psychotic depression, or bipolar disorder. That is a person suffering. It is not a monster. 13 cases in 150 years does not put a beast on 5 roads in 1 week. So the creature is not the dangerous part of this story. The dangerous part is the delivery system. And we know exactly what it is capable of, because in Brazil it has already killed. Garuja on the coast of São Paulo state, the 3rd of May 2014, 5 years before the werewolf. A rumor was circulating on social media that a woman was abducting children in the area for black magic rituals. The picture attached to it was a police sketch, a real one drawn by police in Rio de Janeiro for a different crime 2 years earlier, hundreds of kilometers away. Fabian Maria de Jesus was 33 years old, a housewife, a mother of 2. She offered a piece of fruit to a child on the street. A crowd decided she was the woman in the sketch. The assault lasted about 2 hours. She did not survive it. 5 people were jailed for the lynching. Nobody was ever punished for spreading the thing that caused it. So go back to those 5 towns in the mountains in June of 2019 and look at what actually protected them. It was not the police statement. Most people who forwarded the story never read it. What protected them was that the crowd never found anybody to point at. The werewolf legend always said the same thing in every version for 400 years. The monster is not out in the forest. The monster is one of your neighbors. The part of that legend that keeps coming true is not the transformation. It is the hunt.